Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and we're going to create a nice simple card today. Typical, as I start a video the phone rings, but there you go. So I'm going to create a card, and I'm going to start with a piece of Pink Frog super smooth card, 4 inches by 6 inches. I have a black mat, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and then I have my card blank 5 by 7, which folds at the top. There we go, because them are the cards that I prefer to use. I'm going to stamp with my Morning Mist Voicifying Clair, and I think I'm going to use the Pansy, and I'm going to maybe use the little leafy stamp here from the Lobelia stamp. So let's make a start. So on TE57 we've got some lovely elements on this stamp. I just adore it. So I'm going to use the Pansy. Now we have a large pansy and a small pansy, and this larger pansy really does make a statement. It's a really good size, so stands alone. Quite easily a standalone piece. So I'm going to use my Morning Mist just to stamp in the grey. And because it's a reasonable size stamp, I'm adding lots of tapping to that stamp to add an even application of ink. So just a few tapping over the stamp. Don't scrimp on that, it's really worthwhile. Especially if, like me, you know, it takes you ages to actually take it to the page. So I'm going to add I'm just going to tilt it that way slightly. There we go. And we'll add that just to our card. And the only thing I need to do is just be patient and give that a little bit of time to make that impression on the white card. And of course the door's now ringing now that I've started a video, which is about standard. You couldn't make it up, can you? It doesn't matter when I start, it's always inconvenient. And I think it's me that's going to answer the door. Oh no. So now we've got that beautiful image, as you can see. And it's a little bit more delicate in that grey stamping. So just beautiful, a beautiful detailed stamp. And I'm just going to leave that like that. I think I've got, let me just check yes, I've actually got a pansy cut out for a mask as well, which is lovely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a grey. I don't know whether I've got, oh, I've got weathered wood. That's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to add a little bit of colour around this. And I'm just going to take my brush. You have to bear with me because I'm actually creating something else at the same time. And I have stuff absolutely everywhere. So I'm trying to create this sort of in a confined space, if you like. So I'm just going to just blend a little bit of this grey just around my floral. And I'm just using a fine brush just to add some of that colour. Now you could, if you wished, if you take your water, you can take your water and you can make it a little easier for yourself by adding a little water around the floral first, so that when you come and add your colour, it automatically moves because you've already added that moisture, and it moves a little bit better than this one did here because I added no moisture. So it's a really good thing to remember. If you add that moisture, it already moves for you, and it makes it so much easier. but I forget that each time. Let's just, so I'm just adding a little bit more colour now, and because that moisture is still on there, that is still moving rather nicely. You can also spritz with water just so that that moves and softens a little bit, just so it softens a little bit for you. So let's just wipe that up. I may take that out further, we will see. Let's just grab a little piece of kitchen towel, because as you know by now, when I spritz everywhere. So I end up with moisture everywhere. So I want to grab some colour from my Prismacolor pencils. And what you're going to have, I do want to make sure I've got this yellowy colour. There we go. Yellowy, and maybe something a little bit deeper. What are you? Maybe. And then let's grab a brown. So you don't want that to be a warmish. There we go. So I will go through the colours as I go along, and we'll just dab this dry. Excuse me. So I'll just dab that dry. And what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to take do I want Tuscan red or do I want a brown? See, this is when I can never make my mind up. Oh, it's quite nice actually. So I'm going to add Tuscan red PC 937. And I'm just going to add a little bit of that Tuscan red. And I'm just going to use a flicking motion just to add that Tuscan red. And to me, it's quite a dark red, and it looks like it has some sort of brown undertones in some ways when you apply it. So I'm just adding this, just in a flicking motion, to those areas where I've added the detail on the pansy. So and I'm just going to add that flicking motion. Let's bring it a little bit further in here, just so that that gives me, sometimes you get the pansies that have got that colour in there, and it always looks really nice. So that's the Tuscan red. And I really, really like that colour. I may need to add some different colours as well. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little bit of that colour up here. And what I'm doing, I'm just using that flicking motion. You know, normally I colour around in a circle, but I'm just following the lines of my design. And what I'm doing is I'm getting an impression in my head of how I want to colour this. So I know I want to add a little bit there. Now I want to leave this white here. So I do want to leave that white here. So let's just add. So now I can just add a little bit more of that colour. I can just go around with my circular motion, just to get a little bit more colour down there. And you can see at the moment that it's quite scribbly, but I am getting that colour on there. Now I could do with something a little bit darker. So bear with me. What have I got as a little bit darker? I'm going to turn it over and just have a look. So this is my Tuscan red. And that's a little bit more mahogany red. Yes, we could add the mahogany red. Sometimes it's nice to add some purples, just to give a little bit more depth and make it a little bit more deeper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with the mahogany red, and I'm just going to add a little bit more of that mahogany red. Mahogany red 1029. So we're just going to just add a little bit more of that colour, just with that mahogany red. So I'm coming around the edges, and pansies always remind me of like a frilly dress in some ways. So I'm just adding a little bit of that mahogany red just to give. But with these frills, I don't know, there's just something about it that just reminds me of a dress in some ways. So I'm going to take a little bit of black grape, which has got that sort of purpley tinge to it, PC 996, and I'm just going to just flick a little bit of the black grape just to darken a few of those areas. And with that red, you can't tell it's sort of that purplish, but there are tinges of purple in there just to make it a little bit darker. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to add a little bit of that black grape, PC 996, just to this little area as well. And you can see with this area, I'm continuing with that flicking motion. So it works quite nicely. Excuse me. And I think that is not going to, let's try. So I'm going to come back to the mahogany red 1029, and I'm going to come in a little bit darker. So I'm just going to come in a little bit darker, and I'm going to lay down a little bit more of that colour. And just lay down a little bit more of that mahogany red. I'm then going to come in with the Tuscan red 937, and I'm going to go into the previous colour and just add a little bit more of that colour. And can you see I've sort of left a little bit of that white area just there. There we go. So I'm leaving this area a little bit whiter on there. And then with the black grape, PC 996, I'm going to add a little bit of a darker area just there. And then I'm going to come in and just make it a little bit darker in certain areas, just to give a little bit more depth. So let's just make it a little bit darker there with that black grape, just to make it a little bit darker. And what I'm just doing is emphasizing with the black grape a few of those lined areas. So I'm just going to emphasize a few of those areas with the black grape, and then going to come back to the mahogany red 1029, and then I'm going to come in and we're going to add a little bit more colour now. So we're adding another layer of that colour. And I'm just adding another layer of that pigment, and by pigment in this case I mean the pencil. So just come in and just add a little bit more of that colour. So we're filling in the tooth on that card so that we have less white open areas, so then the pigment smooths out. So then I'm going to go to the Tuscan red. So we go to that Tuscan red and just go into our previous colour. So again, you're just building the layers. And I can decide, I can let that rest and decide if I want to come and add more colour. So if I go to the black grape 996, excuse me, I just want to make sure that edge is a little bit darker. So I'm just coming in with the black grape just to make sure that's a little bit darker, just to give the idea that those petals are overlapping. And I'm just going to come in and just let's make that one a little bit darker. And I can allow that to rest a little bit. And then I'm going to add some lemon yellow. So I've got the area here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my lemon yellow, and I'm going to just bring that in. So I'm very lightly adding this colour just so I can get a feeling for my colour composition, if you like. So I'm just adding a light layer. Is that broke? Just adding a light layer just with that yellow. And I think it's so that, again, like I always do, I have a visual of what I am colouring. So I think, yes, the whole, at the moment, the whole petal. Let's bring in that yellow. Now at this stage, don't press on very hard. You know, you can bring your hand further up on your pencil if that makes it a little easier for you, so that it purposely makes you only press on lightly. It forces you to not scratch your card and press on too heavily, which is quite nice. So then I'm going to take a little bit of the Spanish orange, PC 1003, 3. And I'm just going to add a little bit of my warmer colour, if you like. So I'm just taking a little bit of that and just bringing in a little bit more warmth to that. Again, quite lined because I'm just adding just a little bit of the Spanish orange 1003. I may take a little bit of our, where are we going, Tuscan red, our 937, and I may just add a little bit so it brings some of this colour into our petals as well, just so it brings in a little bit of that colour. And I'm just using this flicking motion just to give me, again, an idea where I am going with that colour. There we go. So I've got a visual of where I want to add the colour. Sort of gives me an idea. Let's bring them colours down here. So it gives me an idea as I layer down more of that colour. I can also come in with the Tuscan red now, and I can just bring in a little bit more colouring to the centre area. Just so that it's richer and deeper. So I want this here, I want them there, and a little bit of colour. There we go. So now I'm going to come in with my lemon yellow. You can tell it's the one I use the most, 915. And I'm now going to sort of smooth out my colour a little bit. Now I've got that visual of where I'm going. So I'm just adding the pigment just so it's a little bit smoother. I knew it was slight. I was thinking I'm being a bit gentle on that. Bear with me. So let's sharpen that pencil. Oh, where's my sharpener? That's not good. I don't know where my sharpener is. Oh no. Don't do this to me. I've got another sharpener. Where? I don't know where that sharpener is. I wonder if it's fallen on the floor. Let's try this one. Which one? Faber-Castell. I'll just try this one. Oh, my favourite sharpener. Just bear with me a second. Haven't got my favourite sharpener, but there you go. And what's weird is both of them have gone. Hopefully we can find that. But both of them have gone. Very strange. which obviously means something's fallen out. Right, we'll come back with that lemon yellow. And we'll just, this is still not right, we'll just add a little bit more of that lemon yellow. So just, and you can see I've still left that white area. So you can see I've still left a little bit of the white area, but I think I'm just going to, now I can see where I'm going, I'm just going to fill that in a little bit. And just there. So we've got the white area here. And I can add some touches of white, should I wish. So you can see that I've built up a picture of what I'm looking for. So now I'm going to come in with the lovely Spanish orange 1003, and I'm just going to add a little bit of that Spanish orange, just to bring me a little bit more warmth. So the Spanish orange is just bringing me a little bit more warmth. But I'm being very careful how much of that I add. So then I'm going to come to the Tuscan red. And I'm just going to add little touches, you know, now. Now, you know that pansies have a little bit of speckling sometimes. So I'm just going to add a few little marks with that Tuscan red. So let's bring in that Tuscan red. So you could change these colours up, you know, if you like your purples and things, and add different splotches on your pansy, because they do have, sometimes they're just all one colour, so you can just colour it one colour, you know, with different shades and everything. But sometimes they do have splotches of different colours. So I'm just adding a few little markings on there. And then I want to let's just come and add another layer of the mahogany just to this now, just so it begins to look a little bit more like velvet. So I'm using that mahogany red just to add a little bit more of that colour, just so that it begins to look a little bit more like velvet. And we'll take the black grape and we'll now just add the black grape right at that edge, just so that that stands out a little bit more. And you can see that you've got those petals really dark in there. Again, we'll add a little bit more of that black grape just to give it a few darker areas. So just where the petals meet here, I'm just making it a little bit darker there. And then with the dark, just so that it looks a little bit more frilly, if you like. So then I'll come back to the Tuscan red. Let's smooth that out a little bit. So that looks a little bit more velvet-like. So you've got that nice smoothness, in other words. So we've got our colour on there. Oh, lovely. And we can add our touches of white. Of course we can add our touches of white as well. So I'm going to come back in with my Tuscan red. And just add a little bit more detail with the Tuscan red. So just adding a little bit more detail with that. And it's up to you if you want to bring it a little bit further around or not. It's entirely up to you. There we go. So then I'm going to come to my lovely lemon yellow. And I'm just going to smooth that pigment out. Just so that we've got a smoother feel to that area. Just so that that isn't quite so patchy. And you can see I've left this centre area white because then it just makes everything else pop. And I will bring a little bit of white up to there as well. We'll do that afterwards with our bleed proof white. So I'm just now smoothing out a little bit of that colour. Just so it's a little bit more blended. And then I can come in with the black grape and I can just make a few areas a little bit darker, just to emphasize a few little areas. I'm going to come in, let me just make that a little bit darker there. So just make that area a little bit darker. And you can tell I'm having lots of fun. So that black grape, I'm now making that area just in the, right in the centre area, a little bit darker. I'll then come and add a little bit of the mahogany red. And just add a little bit of that mahogany red. And then I can go to my Tuscan red. Just so that we've got a little bit more. So it begins to be a little bit softer because you've smoothed that out a little bit as well. So it makes it a little bit softer. I'm just flicking out the areas just so that they come out into that a little bit better. So then I'm going to add a little bit more of my Tuscan red, just so that it's a little bit darker. We'll come in here. So again, just smoothing out that colour a little bit. And once you smooth it out, it just looks far better. So you can it's up to you how far you take sort of your patchwork and how much, you know, of the darkness you add, etc. So with the black grape, I'm just emphasising a few of these lines. Again, that's up to you how much you emphasise that and how many times you add your layers. But I'm quite pleased with that. Oh, how lovely. Now we need to add some touches of white. So let's take our bleed proof white, Dr. P.H. Martin's. I'll add a little bit of water to the lid and I'll pick a little bit of that pigment up. And I've sort of rolled it round into that pigment and then I take the excess off, just so that I haven't got loads on there. And then goodness knows where my kitchen towel is. I've got so engrossed with the colouring. I'm just going to clean the edge of my brush. And then I'm just going to add a few little flicks of white so that it sort of comes up into that area a little bit. I'm then going to add a little bit of white to my pansy, just to sort of emphasize a few little areas. Just, and it really works, just emphasizing a few of those areas on that pansy. It brings it to life. Don't want to add any you have to excuse me, I've got this funny little cough or whatever. I don't know what it is, to be honest, but there you go. And so I'm going to add just going to emphasize a few of those lines, and you can see that I'm not doing every one. And you can add layers of that white just so that you can see that, but hopefully you can see how that brings it to life a little bit. Really helps to bring that to life. And I think I'm just going to add And I'm touching this very lightly, just so that I don't add too much of that white, because you just don't want to make sure that is white. There we go. Can you see I'm really using that brush very lightly, because I don't want to add sort of too much false white. I just want to emphasize a few of those areas. I think I'm quite happy with that. Now it'll take me ages to get my lid on. Let's just give that a little bit of a wipe. And yes, it does take a while to colour, but I just love that. Absolutely love it. And sometimes it's worth just taking a little bit of time just to look at your project and see if you want anything else. You can even use your Prisma white, which is 938, and you can add, you know, you can come in with more subtle touches of white just with your Prisma pencil if you want it a little bit more subtle. It's entirely up to you, but I quite like the way that looks. You just, if you maybe you want to add a little bit more yellow, you can come back in. And it's great because we've not overworked it. I can still come in with my yellow, and you can sort of work that yellow so little touches of it go into the Tuscan red areas, and it just softens that a little bit. If you want to use your yellow, you can sort of drag out a little bit of that Tuscan. Oh, honestly, I could go on forever. What am I like? I just can't leave it alone. So now, where are we? So you could leave it like that if you wished, but I want to add a little bit of foliage. Honestly, I've got stuff everywhere. Let's just put this pansy back. We'll put this pansy back, which is on TE57, and you can see with stamping in that grey, it works rather nicely. So I've got masks here. Let's bring this in. So I've got a little mask of my pansy that I've just stamped in a pale colour. There we go. So then I can take my lobelia, like so, and then it's just deciding what colour I would like to stamp this in. So before we go in, let's bring this floral, this leafy kind of design in there, and just deciding what I want to stamp that in. So if I don't know, I'll bring my copier paper in and just take a little bit of time. So what colours do I have? Oops. So let's... I don't want to add a green, to be honest. I don't want to add that colour. So you can hear me sort of going through my VersaFine Clair. So So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try a little bit of sand dune. So I'm going to take sand dune. Let's just move that out of the way. So I'm going to take a little bit of sand dune, and I'm just testing on my copier paper. So sand dune first. Let's take a little bit of the strawberry, and we'll add a little bit of the strawberry, and you can see I'm just playing, and then maybe a little bit of the monarch. Let's just have a look at what I end up with. Obviously that's too straight line-ish for me, so maybe our distress. So let's maybe do our distress. So I know what we want. Seedless preserves. So let's try. Which one are you going? Let me grab. I want something with a bit of red in. So let's take festive berries, or maybe the lumberjack plaid. Let's try lumberjack plaid. Do you like how I'm just playing here? So I'm going to add the lumberjack plaid. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the seedless preserves. Then I'm going to spritz very lightly with water. That wasn't exactly very lightly, but you get the idea. So I think that needs a little bit more purple. Right, so let's do it the other way round. And you can see I am playing. So I'm going to add the seedless preserves first, and then the lumberjack plaid. And what happens if I don't spritz with water? A little bit darker I want. So it sort of works. So then I'm going to try, what about aged mahogany? So let's take the seedless preserves again, and then a little bit of aged mahogany. You can tell this lid's never been off this one because they're always tight initially. Let's see with a little bit of the aged mahogany. Did I actually add any? So let's take the aged mahogany first. And you do want to play around with your colours, aged mahogany and seedless preserves. That's better. So it's aged mahogany first, so let's put that back. And that's what I love, how we can play with our colours. There we go. Let's move this out of the way because we've had a play now. So I'm then going to take this back over here. So I've got my little mask. Then I'm going to stamp ink even with the aged mahogany. Then I'm going to use the seedless preserves and have a little bit of seedless preserves. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of this foliage just to my design. And if I want to spritz with water, I can do that. Oh, yes, yes, yes. So let's take it. So it's worth playing around with your colours. So, aged mahogany. Then we're going to add a little bit of the seedless preserves. And I'm going to add that. It's going to take forever for me to get this where I want it because it's just me all over. And because I've used that copier paper, it works perfectly. Look at that. Oh, I just love that. So let's take the pansy again. Now, in the shop, if you spend £20 or over, you get a free stencil. I'm trying to get it for you. So you get this stencil free, just so that you can see that. And it goes perfectly with SS35, but you get that free. You don't have to do anything. I just add that to your parcel. So let me just look at that. Right, okay. So again, aged mahogany. And then seedless preserves. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more. Let's sort of thicken it out a little bit. Yep. I just love that. A little bit on this side. I hope the sun's shining where you are. The sun's shining here, and it's wonderful. So you've got the aged mahogany. Then we'll take a little bit of the seedless preserves. Let's just add, so I'm just sort of extending the foliage a little bit. Perfect. Ooh, I love it. And I won't clean my desk again. And then I wonder why it takes me forever to clean up. So perfect colours, just perfect colours. Wonderful. I just love distress. Where did that one come from? Seedless preserves. Now I've got that many bits out. There we go. Let's put these out of the way, just so that we end up with a little bit more space. Oh, I just adore that. I absolutely love it. Love, love, love. So we'll take our weathered wood. What we're going to do is, first of all, we know this brush is not going to be clean. So a little bit more water. So we're going to take that water and we're going to just extend the water. Oh, crikey, it's still quite white. So we're going to extend the water. And what you want is, you want a little bit of this colour from these leaves. You want it to bleed out into the background from those leaves, just so that it's a little bit softer. It all makes sense because that bleeds out into our background. You can tell I'm running out of water, but it bleeds into the background in a very controlled way, if that makes sense. So I'm not spritzing so the whole thing, but you want some of that colour just to come in to the background, just so everything is softened. We look a little bit more arty. That's my excuse anyway. So you've just got a few of these areas just bleeding out into the background. There you go. So it just bleeds out a little bit. So do I actually need the grey? If you want to extend the grey, you can extend the grey a little bit further, just so that that comes a little bit further, if you wish. Oh yes. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So you can see those leaves sort of bleed a little bit, so it softens that just a tad. Then we'll take oh, come on, woman. TE11. Now I don't want to overcook it, so I'm going to take TE11, which is my background stamp. What I'm going to do, put the colours back. I'm going to take a little bit of that aged mahogany. And I'm going to, I know the background's a little bit wet, but that's just exactly what I want. Oh, I just love this. So a little bit of that aged mahogany. And you can see a little bit of text just makes it look a little bit more botanical. And where you touch it, where it's really wet, it's really sort of blurry and more, feels a little bit more artistic. Right, I'm very happy with that. So let's just take and clean that off because you don't want to leave that on there. I'm now going to add this to my black mat. But first of all, before we do that, we're going to go back to TE57, and it's got the pansy word, which is rather handy, isn't it? So we've got that pansy word. That I'm holding in my hand here to make things really awkward. So I'm going to stamp that in my Nocturne ink. And then I'm just going to stamp this here, so it's sort of within the design. And you can see I've not dried the card. I've not touched it, I've not dried it at all. So what did we have on here? Let's add a little touch of my Inktense pencil. Can't remember what colour I had on there. Just so that that blends out nicely. And you can see I've purposely made it so it's within the design. I'm then going to add that to my black mat. Obviously you can dry that card if you wish, because you can see it's wet, you can see where it's wet. There we go, push that to the bottom. I love how this works every time. Now where I've got it a little bit wet, just add a little bit more adhesive. Now you can dry yours so that you're not messing with a wet piece of card. I'm just going to take my kitchen roll and I'm just going to just make sure the centre is pressed down. So just making sure that centre area is pressed down properly. There we go. Oh, wonderful. Absolutely love it. Then I'm going to add a few little splatters of white. Now, I'm not overcooking the white either, just so there's a few on there. I'm then going to add that to my 5x7 card blank. Let's just add that to here. There we go. Straighten that out a little bit. Wonderful. Let's just clean our area. Remember just to sort of remove your little bit of glue at the end of there. And then we can... Oh, I've never done that before. Come on. I normally hold it against my finger. There we go. And that is your card finished. You know, I'm really chuffed with that. So I hope you enjoy creating that, and I can't wait to see your interpretation. I just love that. Love it. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.